Welcome to Will It Build, the series where I take your builds from my YouTube comments and Discord server and put them to the test to see if they are the real deal. If it's solid, then I'll gift you 1,000 silver, and if it's really something special, you'll be featured in a dedicated build video for your submitted build. So comment yours below so we can answer the question, will it build? Welcome back to another episode of Will It Build, where today we have a build featuring a fashion setup that I would have never guessed would have ever existed in Destiny 2, and an extremely powerful build submitted by Ember known as Haunting Chorus, where they say you can disappear into the void and let your enemies hear their final requiem. Every step cloaked in invisibility empowers your next strike with volatile devastation. Pair it with the Choir of One to unleash a relentless, melodic barrage of precision and power in perfect harmony. This isn't just a build, it's a symphony of annihilation. And with this build, of course, with Will It Build tradition, as we have been doing recently, we're going to be giving away 2 emblem codes, one of which will be given away at a random time in this video. It'll be shown on screen, so just keep your eyes out, keep your eyes peeled. The second one we will give away to a lucky person who comments something nice down below, who is also subscribed to the channel and likes the video. So with all that said, let's jump into the build. As you can see here, we have got a pure Void Hunter setup along with Choir of One, the craftable auto rifle from Episode Echoes. We'll go after the specific role on that in just a bit. But first, I want to talk about our exotic armor piece that they have for this build set up for us, the Gerfalcon's Halberd, where of course your void weapons gain volatile rounds after you emerge from being invisible. And when you are invisible in defeated combat when using a finisher, all of our weapons gain bonus damage, and us and our nearby allies gain a reserve overshield and improved class ability regeneration. And those reserve overshields are then deployed by using a class ability. Before we get more into the build, I do want to pull up the Destiny data compendium real quick just to get some actual numbers on that damage increase specifically. So it looks like right here on Gerfalcon's Halberd, upon performing a finisher while affected by void invisibility, we get 35% increased damage for 6 seconds, and then us and any allies within 24 meters are going to get that reserve void overshield. When we cast our class ability, that's going to give us a 40 hit point overshield. And so we're going to set up this exotic armor piece with the pure Void Hunter subclass consisting of Shadow Shot Deadfall for the super, Marksman's Dodge per their recommendation. 1, because I would imagine the idea here is we can hold down the hipfire trigger on Choir of One to completely empty the mag at the snap of a finger, and then hit our Marksman's Dodge to immediately reload it, and do it all again to burst down any tankier target in any tier of difficulty, even like Grandmaster Nightfalls, for example. And because it is a shorter base cooldown, which pairs very nicely with our Vanishing Step Void aspect. If I am not mistaken, it looks like, according to Vanishing Step, as I hover over it, it looks like it has a locked-in base cooldown of 29 seconds anyway, meaning I would imagine that would overwrite the base cooldown of Gambler's Dodge. Am I correct in that? So even though Gambler's Dodge has a longer base cooldown than Marksman's Dodge, the Vanishing Step base cooldown overwrites it, right? So does that give us an angle to potential? One sec, I want to test something real quick. Let's give it a go. So right now we have Gambler's Dodge on, so I'm going to hit the start button on the timer and the dodge at the same time, okay? And I will hit the stop button the very second that my dodge is back. And bang. I got 23.69, which I know that doesn't align with the 29-second base cooldown that it says it is, but keep in mind that's base cooldown. We currently have tier 10 mobility. So now let's throw on the Marksman's Dodge. And the reason I really want to test this is because it's my understanding that on other aspects that overwrite base cooldown, specifically something like Bastion on Titan, the Bastion aspect on Titan overwrites the base cooldown of both Towering Barricade and Rally Barricade. So I'm curious if this is the same situation for Vanishing Steps. Now we got Marksman cooldown, and boom. So if it's about halfway at the 13-second mark, then it appears it's about the same. It's looking like it's definitely faster, though. So I think Marksman's Dodge might indeed be the play, even though I think the base cooldown is not applying. So like, boom, right there. So it's about 17 a second. So Marksman's Dodge is indeed a little bit faster. My guess here is if you have a base cooldown tied to an aspect that utilizes a particular ability in conjunction with the base cooldown tied to that specific ability, my guess is the game takes whichever number is higher. So in the case of having Gambler's Dodge, the game probably looks at this and is like, oh, 38-second base cooldown on the dodge, 29-second, we're going to take the 38-second one. But then if we go to Marksman's Dodge, 29, they're equal, so it just takes whichever. In terms of our other aspect, we're going with Stylish Executioner, which makes perfect sense. sense. The number 1 pairing with your Falcon's Halberd, defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility and true sight, so it kind of lets us go ahead and do our infinite loop, where anytime we defeat a void debuffed enemy, we go invisible through Stylish Executioner, and then when we come out of invisibility, your Falcon's Halberd is of course going to give us volatile rounds, which will then allow us to apply that volatile to enemies to reproc Stylish Executioner and rinse and repeat, and so on and so forth. As far as our fragments, they recommended the Echo of Starvation, where picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power is going to grant us Devour, and then they're kind of synergizing that over with the Echo of Harvest, where anytime we defeat a weakened target, we create an Orb of Power and a Void Breach that we can of course pick up to proc that Echo of Starvation. They also have us with the Echo of Undermining, so our Void Grenades are going to weaken targets. Speaking of which, they have us with the Vortex Grenade, although in my opinion, you could probably go with something like the Scatter Grenade as well if you prefer that. It has a lower base cooldown, and I think the damage is typically comparable, so I would leave that one up to y'all. And then for our final fragment, the Echo of Obscurity, where Finisher Final Blows grant invisibility. That obviously makes sense because that's synergizing with your Falcon's Halberd pretty well, plus some other stuff that we got going on in the build in a little bit. I will say though, not having the Echo of Persistence in a build that utilizes volatile rounds, actually does Persistence, I don't think Persistence increases the duration of volatile rounds, right? Void buffs applied to you, Invisibility, Overshield, Devour have increased duration. There's no way that would apply to volatile rounds, right? Even if it doesn't work, which it probably won't, I still like the idea of using Persistence with a build like this because it gives you increased timers on Devour and Invisibility. Let's just see what we got going on here. Yeah, it does not indeed increase volatile rounds, but still, I think that there is a justification to maybe swap out Undermining or maybe even Harvest. I know Harvest does synergize well with Starvation, but I wouldn't say it's necessary. As always, we're going to try what they recommended for us, and then we'll take a peek at tweaks down the line. Now, looking at our exotic weapon for this specifically, the star of the show, the Choir of One exotic auto rifle. They are highly recommending that we bring in this bad boy with the fluted barrel, flared magwell. This fanatical lance is just the inherent exotic trait that it has, and destabilizing rounds is our specific refit. Where defeating a target creates a void burst, hitting other targets with this burst makes them volatile and grants us volatile rounds for a short duration. Obviously synergizes exceptionally well with Stylish Executioner and therefore your Falcon's Halberd. Finally, for the stock, they actually recommended composite stock that actually gives you maximum stability and the lowest level of handling, but I'm actually going to overwrite them on this and take short action stock, which actually gives you max handling and the lowest amount of stability. Reason being is just because my recoil control is honestly really, really good, and I don't really need the stability stat whatsoever. So if you're generally speaking pretty good at like keeping your gun in line, keeping your gun, you know, kind of well centered and pulling down that recoil, I would say go something like short action stock. If you tend to need a little bit of help from stability, then go with something like composite like they recommended instead. As far as our other weapons go, they simply recommended a primary ammo weapon of your choosing, whatever you like. I've been loving this Mirror Imago from episode Heresy, specifically the Subsistence and Sword Logic. It feels absolutely incredible. It's my favorite frame of SMG. It's my favorite RPM of SMG. I've been loving this thing. It's like the funnel web for me, but in my top slot instead of in the energy slot. They also recommended a arc machine gun specifically with the jolting feedback perk. Now, this isn't a requirement for this build, but it synergizes exceptionally well with some of the episodic mods that we have at the current moment. So you can go with this if you would like to, but it's not a requirement. You could totally run something else if you would like, depending on what activity you're in. If you're doing like a raid boss, you want to run a rocket instead, completely up to you. Finally, for our armor mods, they recommend double special ammo finder on the helmet in conjunction with the harmonic siphon for orbs of power on void weapon multi-kills, which makes sense because we got our Choir of One getting a ton of kills. Down on the gloves, they said impact induction, causing damage with a powered melee attack, reduces our grenade cooldown, momentum transfer, so that causing damage with a grenade reduces our melee cooldown, and then firepower. This one I'm questioning a little bit. I don't really want to swap it for something like Void Loader because we do have Marksman's Dodge, but I don't know. I might come back to the drawing board on the firepower. I just don't know exactly how many grenade final blows we're going to be getting. Down on the chest piece, they recommended double harmonic reserves in conjunction with charged up. On the boots, they're having a slot in recuperation so that anytime we pick up an orb of power, we get health back. Kind of question this a little bit considering we have the Echo of Starvation. I feel like there's a better option here. It's not completely useless as non-empowered Devour, which you only have access to on Warlock. That's only going to give you 100 HP per orb pickup and kill, but it just seems a little overkill when we could have, for example, a Void Weapon Surge down here. Although I do understand the reason that we don't have a Void Weapon Surge down here at the moment, as we'll see when we get to the class item. But on the rest of the boots, stacks on stacks, double dipping on all of our armor charge stacks, we pick up Orbs of Power and a Harmonic Scavenger, which is absolutely incredible for the Choir of One ammo economy. Finally, on the class item, Reaper, Orb of Power Generation, Final Blow after class ability cast, Powerful Attraction to scoop up all the orbs, and Special Finisher Anytime we get a finisher, consume 3 stacks of armor charge, and we generate a special ammo brick. Admittedly, I'm not sure how necessary this is going to be. I know it makes sense conceptually because of how invested we are into our special ammo weapon with Choir of 1 in this build, but I just don't know if this is going to be overkill, if it's going to be necessary. I might prefer swapping this for like a bomber and then maybe having some void weapon surges on the boots instead. But of course, we're going to test what they have set up for us, and then we'll see how we want to tweak things and how we want to change things, see how we like it. Now, before we get started with actually testing this build, we are going to be taking it into the Rite of the Nine Spire of the Watcher dungeon on Eternity difficulty and going for a solo flawless run. I've actually had a couple of viewers in my live stream, twitch.tv/Mactics, by the way, where we record all of these live. You should absolutely stop by. I've had a couple of viewers wager gifted subs that I cannot solo flawless on the first try. So we got a little bit on the line for this episode of Will It Build, but I also wanted to show you guys the fashion setup that I'm currently rocking with in case you want to mimic it. I got the General Grievous set, which is never a sentence I thought I would say, in Destiny 2, specifically using his helmet, gloves, and boots. I'm then using the Gerfalcon's Halberg Sacred Tactics ornament. And then I'm actually going with the Void Eververse Cloak, the Abyss Walker Cloak. And then I've got the Arctic Pearl Shader, which I believe you can obtain from A1 in the tower on this entire thing to get a nice like white and purple Void Hunter look, which I think looks absolutely spectacular. Last thing real quick before we hop into testing the build, the episodic/artifact mods, none of these are required in any capacity, so this build will still work perfectly fine, at least as far as I can tell from the drawing board, even after this episode when these mods are gone. But stuff like Volatile Marksman, Maligned Harvest, Void Flux are always going to pair exceptionally well with Void weapons. And then as far as the arc weapon selection goes specifically with jolting feedback, that's going to synergize nicely with things like overclock and load, hold the line, dielectric, and defibrillating blast. So you do actually have ways to get amplified and get bolt charge and get defibrillating blast, which can feel kind of nice. Not a requirement, but a decent option if you would like to go that route. So with everything set up, let's go ahead and boot up Spire of the Watcher on Eternity difficulty, see if we can solo flawless it and answer that question. Will it build? Choir of 1's a really interesting weapon in terms of kind of like the mindset between when do I want to ADS shoot versus when do I want to hip fire shoot. Generally speaking, the aim down sights, in my opinion, is much better, not only for ammo economy, but also because you get like a 180% DPS bonus when you're aiming down sights. It's just kind of built into the gun. You also have hit scan when you're aiming down sights as well. It's 3 tapping the Cyclopses. Whoa. That went right over my head. Get that grenade off right there. I do like the Echo of Undermining, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, due to the fact that it lets us get a grenade final blow, and because the grenade weakens, that's going to proc Stylish Executioner and make us go invis. But I also like, not using Echo of Persistence on Void Hunter just feels so wrong. I'm wondering if, like, On the Prowl would be a vibe for this. The Vanishing Step doesn't seem that necessary. I feel like I could swap the Marksman's Dodge for a Gambler's Dodge and take off Vanishing Step and swap it for On the Prowl. I think we're done here, right? Bang, 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 bang. Coolio. And then, I mean, it is nice to be able to hit the Vanishing Step to go invis and on demand, because then you can pop out of it, and then boom, you immediately have your Falcons up. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't there that modifier on where, like, I have a crazy amount of health, but it, like, doesn't regen? Should we not be testing? This seems like a, not a good testing ground then. I feel like we're not going to get, like, a very good representation of this build. The question is, do we have anyone currently in the live chat that would want to go and do a Grandmaster Nightfall right now? Okay, should we do a Grandmaster Nightfall, or should we do an ultimatum run of Spire of the... What if we did an ultimatum run? Highest difficulty. I don't know if I'm kind of crazy, but, like, when it comes to Gerfalcons, I've never really loved the aspect of it where it's like, hey, get finishers while you're invisible. I feel like getting finishers while I'm invisible is such a wonky gameplay loop. Are there any Gerfalcons lovers currently in here that consistently take advantage of that mechanic of Gerfalcons, or do most people in here just use Gerfalcons for the, hey, after I leave invis, I get volatile? I feel like most people that use Gerfalcons never really use like that. The one thing I'm not sure how I feel about with this build is a lot of the setup with, especially with like the armor charge and the mods, seem like they're kind of built around playing for finishers. It honestly, you guys let me know if this is just like a personal preference thing, or if y'all also feel this way. I feel like finishers in Destiny aren't really supposed to be something that you typically actively play for. They're more of a thing where it's like, hey, oh cool, a finisher is available to me, I'm gonna take advantage of that, as opposed to like, okay, I'm gonna specifically get this enemy just weak enough to be able to finisher them, but I'm gonna make sure that I don't do too much damage because I don't want to kill them, because I really need to make sure I get a finisher on them for my gameplay loop. But I'm just, I feel like it's such a wonky feeling to like play for finishers, but it's entirely possible that that's just like a me thing. Also, in terms of the ammo economy, with they had to set up with the special finisher, which is kind of what our armor charge revolves around right now. I really feel like Choir of One just has such a good ammo economy, and it gets so much per brick, especially with the Harmonic Scavenger. I feel like we don't really need that special finisher that much. That is another excellent point. We're currently playing without any resistance mods because of how invested we are into our armor charge for those finishers. I feel like we're a little offense heavy, which like I feel like is fine in on-level content because resistance mods aren't crazy important in on-level content. But if you do want to start taking this into GMs and ultimatum dungeons and stuff like that, I feel like you definitely do want to have some survivability factor as well. So here, let's make some tweaks here. I want to try, we're going to get rid of the special finisher. We'll go bomber instead. We're going to dump the stacks on stacks. We're going to go for a void weapon surge. And then we're also going to dump the recuperation for another void weapon surge. So we're at 17% when we're armor charged. We're going to, actually, we're not going to use the bomber. We're going to go time dilation so we can get more mileage out of those void weapon surges right here. Going to keep the harmonic scavenger, very important. I don't really feel like I need the charged up, to be honest, if we're not gonna have stacks on stacks. So I'm gonna drop that. Concussive dampener, in my opinion, is like the most important damage resistance mod in the entire game. I'm fine with one of the harmonic reserves, but I feel like two is maybe a little bit overkill. So I think I'll go, I would go whatever the most prevalent type of damage is in the encounter that I'm in. So like, for example, right here, it's void because of the hydras. So we'll go harmonic resistance, and then I'm okay to have the harmonic reserves as well. I'm okay with everything else we have on for now. More changes will perhaps come, but at the current moment, I'm okay with everything else that we have. Nice. Can I hit this? No way, right? Oh! Oh! Is that LaMelo Ball in the Spire of the Watcher? I'm not sure how I feel about the machine gun. I mean, like, Choir of One's good, don't get me wrong, but in terms of, like, boss DPS, it's not that good. So I'm just kind of sitting here, like, and I can't help but feeling like, I really wish I had, like, a rocket or, like, a linear fusion rifle or something like that instead of the machine gun. Because I have, like, 2 ad-clearing weapons right now. So, like, I guess the machine gun's fine now, but if I had, like, a rocket or something like that, I'd still have a lot more ammo in my Choir of One because I wouldn't have to burn so many bullets on the tankier targets. I'm actually come over here and hopefully I, like, kind of pull enemy aggro with me. Okay, can't have another death. Oh god. I have to reload at the worst possible time. I had Marksman's Dodge available. What am I doing? Kill him! Oh, don't kill him. Okay, what I'm actually gonna try for like a boss encounter specifically, I'm gonna go linear fusion rifle instead of the machine gun. And then what we'll do is I'll make sure I get particle on. Like I said, I think the machine gun is circumstantial. Target practice. Am I better off just like hip firing maybe? Kill him! Kill him now! Yeah. Nice. Cool. So here's the thing. Will it build? Yes, it's a good build. It's actually exceptional at ad clear, and this totally works in higher echelons of content, especially in the ad clearing division. I could totally see it smoke champs as well, with like the mag dump hip fire on the Choir of One into the Marksman's Dodge into another mag dump. But here's the thing, couple of tweaks about the build. I don't really love investing so much armor charge into the special ammo finisher. I really didn't think it was that necessary. I really like the void weapon surges instead. That also allows us to invest a little bit into resistances on the chest piece, which I think is super important in higher end content. Another thing too is I feel like the stabilizing rounds might be a little bit overkill on here, and I think you could definitely get potentially more and better mileage if you go something like Onslaught instead. But here's my biggest thing about this build. The number one benefit that we're getting out of it being on pure void avoid is that we're getting Devour. I think there is an angle to swap the Vanishing Step for On the Prowl, and I think that could be nice for team play situations. But my brain nonstop when I'm using this build is just saying, hey, why not just go on Prismatic and use an exotic armor piece with Spirit of the Gerfalcon, and then whatever else you want in your first column. If I come over here to the Destiny Data Compendium, we got Spirit of the Gerfalcon in column 2, which means you could line it up with Spirit of Inmost Light to spam your abilities, which would make it all the easier to proc the Stylish Executioner that you have on Prismatic as well, which is actually more versatile because it's any debuffed enemy, not just a void debuffed enemy, which is not only applicable for your Prismatic abilities, but everyone else's debuffs on your fire team as well. There's so much you can do with this and so much more versatile you can be if you rock this on Prismatic as opposed to pure void. Yes, you miss out on the Devour, but honestly, you can kind of overwrite that pain quite a bit by just going with something like Faceted Purpose and having Golden Gun Marksman with Restoration on Orb of Power pickup instead. Obviously, it's not as potent on Devour because Devour procs on literally every single kill, but I think there are ways to make up for the loss of Devour if you do want to take this into the Prismatic realm. So here's what I want to do. Will it build? Yes, absolutely. It's a winner. Wins 1,000 silver. I like the build. I think it's good. It's solid. And I think it makes a lot of sense. But I do want to try out my hand at a Prismatic version of this in the next Will It Build video. So I kind of want to try and Prismaticify this Choir Hunter build. I don't want to modify it in this episode because one, that I feel like we're kind of getting a little too away from the original build, plus two, just make for way too long of a video. We're going to leave this where it is for now. Obviously going to be linked in the description, dim link and Mobalytics written guide link. But in the next episode of Will It Build, we're going to take this sucker, try and put together a Prismatic setup for it. And in my opinion, just off the top of my head, I think we're going to end up being able to do a little bit more with it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Will It Build. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.